So hello everybody. Yeah, you get to have my VTuber here this time since I actually got topic suggestions from folks. Let's start off with our first one from Pluto, who is an honorary pursuer in my over in my Discord because they're real rad and active. They asked me how I started making art, how I come up with character designs, names and stories, and etc., and offered to DM me more topics. Don't worry, Pluto, I will certainly take you up on that when I need more topics. I'll be honest, I honestly don't really remember how I started drawing. Just kind of been doing it since I could properly hold a writing implement, and I was already buying how to draw books and tracing manga in elementary school. So yeah, I never really had any formal teaching outside of public school art classes until I started college. And as for the other stuff, names, designs, stories, and whatnot, I will be covering that in the next question, which will be the main topic of the video. Now, let's jump into our main question from Link, who is a Mythic Spark. Maybe, what's your process for coming up with a new character? Do you start with just a concept or an idea board, or you can narrow this down to D&D characters or just in general? I will focus in on D&D characters, though I definitely feel like this works for characters in general. I only recently narrowed this down to a solid technique, so I might update this process in the future. And another note, I tend to write and design my characters at the same time. I'll start off with my overall notes, then I'll go into designing the character, and then I'll go into writing the character. But just know that I kind of do both of these processes at once, and the overall guidelines are just like what I think about kind of the whole time I'm designing a character. Overall, I consider the world that I'm building for. Designing a character for something like Bloodborne is very different from designing a character for Pokemon. I use fandoms as an example here, but if you're writing for your own world, make sure the character fits the tone. But also, if you are writing for your own world, you can choose to break the rules if you want a character to stand out. I also usually pick one or two special focuses of that character and orient everything towards that, especially for D&D characters. Can you tell I don't min-max? Draper can heal and is highly skilled with poisons, so that's what all of her signature abilities do. By the way, if you want to hear more about Draper, I am actively posting campaign notes on Instagram each week. Also, patrons have gotten secret lore dumps for Draper. Another overall note, I usually start with a general gist or an idea. I might mix characters I like, or I might start with a general trope, like sort of a D&D motivator framed for a crime they didn't commit. If you don't know your tropes or need ideas, head on over to Overly Sarcastic Productions and get listening to Red's Trope Talks. And a little note on naming the character, this is really hard. I usually just hop into Google Translate and start translating random words about their personality into different languages. And if that doesn't work, behindthename.com is a great site to do some research, and you can also always go to the classic fantasynamegenerators.com. While I don't usually tend to use their names straight up, I'll use it to find combinations of sounds or first names that I like. Overall, I just kind of base it off impression. When I say it or read the name, does it give off the tone I like? Examples: Warden tells you exactly what Warden does. Draper, simple and efficient name. Luther Colt Whalen oozes cool and seems very fancy. Those are some of my overall guiding principles when I make a character. Now let's hop into designing the character. If I don't have any immediate sketch ideas, I'll usually start playing in character creators to get ideas. So stuff like Pit Crew or Soul Calibur. If either of those aren't doing the trick or I still need more refinement, I will then hop onto Pinterest. I try to design for what my character does. Do your research when you need to. If you're designing a character who fights in heavy armor in the front lines, then you're gonna need to do research into how armor works. But that's because I'm me, and I care about making a design that actually looks functional. As far as writing the character, a lot of this is based off of RuneSmith's video on how to build a villain, which is phenomenal. Please go check it out. It's amazing. But I've modified it to work for heroes and added to it. For writing the character, start with their ideals. What do they value? Pick like 3 things, then come up with their ambitions. What do they want to do? Next is a motivator. Why do they want to do it? Then I start working on their positive traits. What are some of their best qualities? Then I do inverted traits. I take their positive qualities, their best ones, and turn them on their head. I know this is a little weird, so I'll actually give an example for it. A character that is selfless and likes to help others might go so far in helping others that it's a detriment to their own health. I like to invert positive character traits in order to come up with interesting flaws. Next up, you can come up with things to lose. If they don't reach their ambitions that they came up with before, what do they risk losing? Second to last, I start working on their personality. Keep in mind, if I'm struggling coming up with positive and inverted traits, I sometimes jump right to this step. You can use positive and inverted traits to get a basis, and often instead of actually writing a character personality from scratch, I go take a 16 types personality quiz and answer as the character I'm trying to write. Because their personality is basically already written from that. I can just choose what I actually want to use. If you're going to skip these steps because you're trying to build a character quickly, I recommend, at the bare minimum, knowing their motivation and what they have to lose. If I need to know something about an NPC for D&D, that is all I will nail down before I even figure out what they look like. When I make my characters, I kind of hop between designing and writing, and if I'm stuck on one part of the writing, I'll go to a different spot. I just find different ways to play with the character and explore what they are like, if that makes sense. I think that's all I have for how I come up with a character. I know that was a lot of technical information, but I hope it was helpful.
Pain ever have come our way, hold me under tattered wings till the world bathed in darkness slips away into an endless sleep. Know that we can never go to that place that we call home, so lose voice in agony, and the ache I feel inside my bones for the days we used to know. Do you feel alone as the heat from your body flows? Come back to me.